Well, you guys, it's a special day. It's always a special day when we've got more than one guest on Comics Are Dope, the podcast. And tonight is no different. So tonight we have two very special guests who took the world by storm with the release of Chew quite a while back over with Image Comics, and just really a part of that Image boom of just books that really just kind of changed the way people looked at modern comics. And now they are back to do it again with a project called GHOSTBRAWLER. But I won't do it justice trying to introduce it. So instead, why don't you welcome to the show Mr. John Layman and Mr. Rob Guillory.
Hey, everyone.
How you guys doing?
Good. How you doing, man?
Doing well. It's good to see you both. We were doing a little bit of banter pre-show. I was talking about how in the world Macs work, and like the simplest things kind of trip me up. I am curious, though, since we're on the subject of introductions and things, how did you two meet each other?
At the time, I'd kind of flunked out of comics for a while. I had a couple bad years, and I wasn't earning comic book money, but I was getting video game money. So I had this book Chew that I was gonna finance because I was the writer of a video game. It had a 2-year development program, and then once the game shipped, I was going to be fired. So I was going to use my sweet video game paycheck to finance this book that everybody had turned down, and it wasn't going to make any money, but it was going to be a loss leader that I could take to editors and be like, "Hey, man, I still write comics. Remember me? Here you go. Hire me." So I put the word out to my friends. I had a budget. I got this book. Who do you know that could draw it? And Rob turned out to be the guy. Like we met at a San Diego after I sent him just a cold email.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it ended up being absolute perfect timing. I had been kind of knocking around the indie comic scene for years, mostly just like 8-page shorts here that 8 to 10-page anthologies, that kind of thing. And I had just 2 weeks before John hit me up for Chew, my wife and we'd been married a year. I had a job working as a dispatcher for the oil field, not comics related whatsoever. But I had a lot of networking and groundwork done in the comic scene. I had a lot of contacts and whatnot, and I was starting to get a bunch of bites. And I just, it was one of those things where I was starting to get bites for like the thing I wanted to do, which was comics. But I had the night job, which kind of held me back. So we decided 2 weeks before John hit me up, I think it's time to just take a leap. And I was going to I put my notice in for my job, and San Diego Comic-Con was 2 weeks later. I've been going for years. So I decided I'm going to go to Comic-Con. I'm going to take it by storm and make something happen. And then the day before I was going to fly out, I get an email from John, which we never met. We had met once. He does not remember, like 2 years before or something.
Yeah, that never happened.
We briefly had met, and I think he was on his way out of the comics, doing video games or something. But I was a fan of his work for years. So when he hit me up, it was absolute perfect timing. I knew exactly who he was, and I was like, "Yeah, absolutely, let's do this." So we met. He sent me the Chew pitch. My wife read it on the plane before I ever did, and she's not a comic fan by any stretch. But she read it and she looked at me and said, "This is brilliant. This is absolutely perfect for you. This is your thing." And then I met John the next day at it was the Hyatt Hotel, San Diego Comic-Con 2008. It was very late at night. John was a little drunk, and we hit it off immediately and started working on Chew about a month later, I think.
I think I told him the ending of the book, which I never tell anybody. And I have no memory of that either.
Yeah.
So, Rob, I'm curious because, according to your timeline, you're in a sort of vulnerable spot when the pitch comes to you. But you're self-aware enough, or, at least you've got enough knowledge that your wife can say, "Hey, this thing is perfect for you." I feel like me in your position, I would have just said yes, no matter what it was. But what was it about the Chew pitch that was so pitch perfect for you?
Well, it was a paying gig. I mean, it didn't pay a lot, but
Well, when I was already kind of making moves to do this thing. And when something falls out of the sky like that, I tend to wonder, I think things happen for a reason. And it just happened to be that, like, of all the guys to do this, John, because John was actually pretty instrumental early in my career, even though we hadn't met. When I was first kind of getting serious about comics back in 2001, I was just discovering indie comics because I grew up in Louisiana. I still live here. We didn't have much of a comic scene back then, no Comic Cons or nothing like that. And all the shops only really carried Marvel DC stuff. So I wasn't aware of I wasn't exposed to a lot of indie stuff. But we did have some Image comic stuff. So I started finding stuff. And one of the books I found that was more indie, that was different, that showed me that comics could be made differently, was this book called Puffed that John wrote. And a guy named Dave Crosland, who's a friend now, he drew it. Really kind of like, I don't want to say cartoony, but like very, I don't know how to describe Dave's style. It's very expressive, just
I
brilliant.
think it's kind of indie graffiti.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So like that grabbed me early when I was just kind of forming my what will become my style. And John was a writer, and I loved how he wrote. I love his sense of humor, and it stuck with me. And then I would follow his career. He went to write a Scarface at IDW and a few other things. And his sense of humor stuck with me, and how he told a story stuck with me. And I think, if anything, it was weird that he was the guy that reached out to me, because he was kind of there with me the whole time as I was developing my style. So whenever we hooked up, I thought, this is weird. This couldn't be more perfect. So yeah, it clicked. But yeah, to be honest, I mean, it would have had been pretty bad for me not to take the gig at that point.
There's actually one more element to this, BJ. Like I told you, I had pitched it around to the point where it was kind of a joke with some of my friends. And once I decided I was going to finance it, I called Eric Stevenson, at the time the newish publisher at Image, and we were just friendly. It was just two friendly guys talking. And I said I had this weird cannibal bird flu cop procedural, and I'm looking for an artist. Does he know anyone? And he said no, but he's like, I like the idea. Find an artist and Image will publish it. So after pitching it a billion times and getting no bites, I didn't even try to pitch it, and suddenly I got a green light. So not only is a paying gig, I get to kind of be the coward and be like, Rob, this is on you. If Eric doesn't like you, you're gone. But if Eric does like you, you're getting a paying gig and an Image book. Like that was the big thing too. It wasn't that we had to shop it around. We had a freaking publisher on the line.
Mm. Yeah. So I think it was a win-win all around for me. I mean, it couldn't have lined up better. So it was perfect.
And to that point, John, like I said, I'm newer to comics. So a lot of the stuff that I know from documentaries or like listening to people talk about it, and then I go back and read it later. But by all accounts, right, like Eric Stevenson is absolutely responsible for like the Image boom of the 2010s. And, just having the foresight to green light a bunch of stuff, right? Like, but including Chew. What is it about him, or I guess his sort of approach to things, that, made him so successful, do you think?
Oh, I couldn't even pretend to get into Eric Stevenson's head. That dude he's an enigma. He does have good taste. I mean, I think he could be accused of being a little bit of a literary comic snob, but in a good way. I mean, not to pat myself on the back, but he's got good taste. I mean, part of it is he's got the eye for what is good. In fact, we brought him Ghost Brawler, and he's like, and we got a leg up because we're the two guys. We did pretty well. Like he'd have to hate it to but he came back. He's like, yeah, I like it. It's good. Change the title. Ghost Brawler was not the original title. And now it, like, I look back and it's like, man, that was I'm not even going to share it with you. That was a shitty title, and Ghost Brawler just works so much better now that we're seeing the art with the logo and everything. Like it couldn't have been anything else. But Eric was the guy who honed in on the one thing, found the one kink in our armor, and address this, and we're good.
Yeah, I think he has a good sense of things. I mean, he's yeah, I mean, those guys, the visionary guys are always kind of aloof and in their heads, and kind of hard to read. But I mean, when I think of Eric, I think the first time I ever met Eric in person was the first Chew Comic Con. It was in 2009, and I met him at the end of the show. We'd had a great show, and I see him, and I'm like, "Hey, man, appreciate you giving us the opportunity." And he looked at me confused and said, "I didn't do anything." Which I respected. I was like, okay, all right, all right, that's cool. So I don't think I don't know. I think he just has good taste, and he's okay taking a chance on something weird like Chew, which is cool.
But if you look at the publishers before that, because when I first started at Image, it was Valentino, who is a straight out like indie guy. He's from like, he did Normal Man, he did Sarah, but he was an indie guy at heart before he was the Shadowhawk guy. And then Eric Larson took over, and he's just like a straight superhero guy. And like Puffed would like that was right up Valentino's alley, so he approved it. But when it got time to and it didn't set the world on fire for sales. When it got time to collect it, Eric Larson, the superhero guy, looked at this freaking indie thing. He's like, nah, we're not doing that. So each publisher kind of puts their own mark with their taste. And Eric Stevenson is clearly not a superhero guy. He's not trying to recreate Wildcats or Spawn, although clearly a universe like as big as Image, you're going to have the Radiant Blacks, and you're going to there is room for superheroes too.
Yep.
For sure. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like I before I was into comics, I was very big into music, and the job of a publisher to me sounds a lot like sort of indie label CEO, right? I just watched the Michael movie, so like in this example, it'd be Barry Gordy, who's just like, all right, here's who we're gonna sign. I'm gonna put you with this writing team, the sandwich test, all the things, right? But it's like when you think about that sort of classic 60s, 70s Motown, it's like you don't get that if someone else is in that position. And, even into like rap labels and so on. So much of it is really just the mark of taste. And I think we lose that. That's the thing that we lose when really any sort of art form just becomes super corporatized. But David Gabriel's out at Marvel, like just all these things. Like you think about these corporations, but it really is like people, often a person that is just driving these decisions and so many of the things that you love so much. And so I don't know, that's kind of just fascinating.
If you look at there were no expectations for Chew, including us. Like no one thought it was going to be a runaway hit. It was going to sell. Eric Stevenson didn't think that. Eric Stevenson approved it because he thought it would be, cool comics. And then it just happened that it, did blow up. But yeah, I mean, that's, he's clearly not a guy who, of course you got to, keep your eye on the bottom line to keep alive, but like, it's not all bottom line,
Right. But, speaking of bottom line, right, Chew kind of takes off. How does that affect you guys? Like, it's one thing to be like, all right, I've got this thing I can take to editors. I've got this thing I can boost my resume with a writer that I admire. And now it's like, okay, this thing is all consuming. I thought it might have gone for this long. Now, we're secure and I can just do this or do nothing else or whatever. Like, how did that go?
It was weird because I'd had enough failure that it seemed like a fluke, and it seemed like the world was playing a joke on me, and like, they'd pull the curtain open and, everyone's laughing at me and the sales would tank. And it took about a year for me to like kind of admit like, oh shit, we actually, we are a hit. We've got the numbers to go as long as we want. How long is that going to be? All my favorite series, and as a writer, I kind of study, format and architecture and all that. And like Why the Last Man, Preacher, Scalped. I'm forgetting a few, but there's like 5 books that are my favorite books. They're all 60 issues long. And I'm like, 60 issues feels like a novel without like getting too far up its own ass, and like losing touch. So we decided very early on we're going to go 60 issues, and I had an ending, I had a plan, I had this like terrible thing that was going to happen at issue 30, which is the midway point. And I also, I have influences, and one of them is a TV show called The Shield, and great show. But the entire show, the first half is leading up to an Armenian money train robbery, and the second half is all the repercussions that come from robbing the Armenians and everyone falling. But it goes to the middle. This happens, and then that's the result. And Chew did the same thing. I said at the exact middle point, there's this one character that we're going to make you love, and something terrible is going to happen, and then everything else flows out of that. So like I knew from the beginning what would happen at different like big milestones. Like I couldn't tell you what was going to happen on page 12 of issue 43, but I could say around issue 40 in the 40s this will be what happened. So I had a goal, I was working towards it. And even Kirkman at the height of kind of Chew mania, he's like, dude, milk it, ride it, go, Walking Dead's going to go forever. It didn't, but like he's like, keep it going. It's like I can't. I got to have an ending. I have to have something I'm working towards. Otherwise, I'm going to be spinning my wheels, and the reader's eventually going to figure that out.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think it was so weird. It just went from, like I said, Chew #1 was the first full comic I'd ever done. Everything else had been, up to that point, had been anthologies, short stories, and that sort of thing. So it was the first one I did like all the things for. And then all of a sudden it kicked off, and next thing you know, we're in emails with Kirkman and Stevenson, and we're talking about marketing and figuring out how to capitalize on this thing. And it's like, wow, okay, we're off to the races.
And not only is it selling and like getting reprints, like suddenly like I'd been in comics since 95, and this was 2007, so I'd been in comics for 12 years. I think I was flown out to one signing, and I stayed like I had never like experienced kind of the red carpet treatment. And we got invited to Italy we had an Italian publisher, and we were their debut book, and we went to freaking Milan Con. And during Milan Con we got a call, hey, you're up for the Eisner, or maybe were we up for a couple Eisners?
Yeah,
just the first year. I mean,
the first it was one the first year.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, things got real surreal very fast.
Yeah. I think for me, the first time it all kind of crashed into my head was Chew #1 came out in June of 2009, the day after my birthday, June 3rd. And then a month later, it did what it did that first month, which was crazy. And then San Diego Comic-Con was the very next month. So by the time Comic-Con came around, we had 2 issues in the can at that point, and the second printing of the first issue. And I had been to Comic-Con before, many, many years, but I'd never tabled before. And I'd never had a book out for it and everything. And funny enough, the year before, I had been escorted. I got kicked off a table at Comic-Con. It's a long story. A friend of mine, it's very difficult to get a table at Comic-Con. A friend of mine had gotten one, an Artist Alley table, and he said, I'm not going to use it. If you want it, you can have it. So I was like, absolutely. So I tabled, and somehow it got around to the San Diego Comic-Con people that I was not my friend. So they escorted me from the table the year before. So to come back the year later to have a table, to have this book kind of doing its thing.
So you never told me that. I didn't know I was working with a fucking outlaw.
It was very full circle, but it messed with me, honestly. Like when I got home from it, it was the first time I'd had a line. I mean, we were busy the entire con and just signing books and, sold a bunch of art, made money. I went home and I got in front of my drawing desk after kind of coming back from the trip, and I was a little freaked out because I think for the first time I realized, people are going to read this. And this isn't just me messing around anymore. This is actually going to go somewhere. People are going to read it. It has repercussions. So it took me a good week to really kind of like let that sink in and kind of be okay with it.
Now, Rob, of course, you went on to do Farmhand and a number of other books. I think the first full book I read from you was Mosley, which I loved. But how long does it take to sort of settle? I mean, I know you got 60 issues on Chew, but how long does it take to just be like, you know what? I'm me. I'm doing this, and not to be afraid of like, I don't know, a sophomore jinx or like whatever the fan response would be?
It took me, I mean, after Chew was over, there was definitely a period of what the hell now? Because I mean, John knows. I mean, after Chew was over, as we approached the ending, and I realized early 20 or late 2015, 2016, we knew it was going to end in 2016. So it hit me that year. Oh, like this is done this year. What am I going to do next? So that's when I started, texting John on the side, like, "Hey man, are we doing something else? Like, what's going on?" And he just wasn't there. So I thought, okay, you know what? I've always, before John and I hooked up, before that Comic-Con where we hooked up, I was actually going to be marketing myself as a writer artist. I was always intending to be writer artist, but then Chew happened. So, with Chew ending, I just got this itch, and I realized I think I just need to do the thing I've always kind of felt like I needed to do, which is be the writer artist. So the hard part was making that transition from being, part of a team, just being, the artist co-creator, but going into be everything. And I had no idea what I was getting into. I had no idea like how much work. I wrote full scripts on every single issue of Farmhand as if I was writing for another artist, because I wanted to be able to have those tools to like be able to work with other artists, which I ended up doing. And I mean, sitting under John for 60 something issues, I learned so much. And I mean, John's a great writer. I mean, he's studied, under some pretty amazing writers while he was an editor at Wildstorm in DC. Like, I think he's absorbed a lot of amazing skill. So I kind of gleaned as much as I can. But it was definitely a period of some self-doubt and leaping into the unknown, and it was terrifying. But at some point, I think I kind of felt like I went through an 8-year period of trial post Chew, and just grinding and learning. And I mean, as a writer, as a business owner, and as a business person, like having to, because I mean, that was the thing I probably wasn't ready for. I knew that, being a solo writer artist, I'd be doing the art and the writing, sure. But there's like way more to that. Like there's like a project management aspect of it, because I'm like, now I'm doing the thing. I have to like, not only am I writing it and drawing it, I have a colorist, I have a letterer, I have a designer, I got to work with image, I got to do the production, I got to do the media, I had to do all of this stuff. And I got to go to cons, and I got to try to market this thing to Hollywood. So I did all of that for 8 to 10 years. And at some point, I think probably only in the last 2 years, I started feeling like, okay, I got this. Like, I feel more confident than I ever have as a creator. But it took like a gauntlet of like doing all the things for like 8 to 10 years. And now that we're getting back together again, I feel way more, it's like weightlifting. It's like you just do this, that you're under this resistance for all this time, and you come out the other side and you're like, oh, okay, I got all this like extra ability I didn't have before, but it sucked. It really, really sucked for a long time.
Yeah. And Rob, you've talked, a lot online, just kind of about like developing business acumen as an artist or, a creative in general. And John, you've had time at DC, at Wildstorm, you've done creator-owned stuff, but I'm wondering if that part of it was like a culture shock for you, or a challenge that you embraced. Like, how was it like managing your own stuff versus playing with other people's toys?
It's a different like point of view. If I can make Tony Chu do something terrible to a busload of children, terrible idea, but I couldn't let Batman do that. Like you're coloring within you're playing by their rules with their toys. And it's fun because there's things you don't have to worry about, like solicitation, and like, all you have to worry about is, did I finish on time and did my voucher go through? Whereas when it's your own book, you have to worry about every freaking thing. What do you think of the texture on these end pages? Oh, look at this spreadsheet. It's like, fuck, man, I didn't get into comics to do math. I didn't get into comics to think. to think. I just want to like tell stories. So someone will ask me like, oh, when's your new issue of Titans come out? When I was writing Titans, like, I don't know, like this Wednesday or the next. Like, if it's my book, I know every single thing about it. if it's a creator, if it's a company, you know, if it's work for hire, I don't have to, like, I know some of the younger people know everything, and it's like, let that go. You know, you'll be happier. You know, do what's expected to you. Don't do beyond that. But you know, there's a satisfaction to like writing your own stuff, playing God. You know, you're having control. Also, you know, I'm not going to get anything from the Batman movie. You know, like the Chew movie, I will. So you know, there's a satisfaction to like, oh, cool, I get to write Batman. I get to write Spider-Man. Okay, well, at the end of the day, you know, they're gonna hire somebody, you know, younger and hungrier than you that'll work for cheaper, and you are disposable. They can't do that for a creator-owned book.
Yeah, yeah, and that was something I kind of came to in the last, like, I'd say 3 or 4 years, really. There was something I got offered because I grew up, again, Marvel DC guy. So whenever you get an email from an editor with a Marvel or DC logo in it, it's like, oh, what is this? So they reached out to me. One of them reached out to me 3 or 4 years ago, maybe, and it was after Mosley came out, and they liked Mosley, and they wanted to offer me something, a specific character, and they're like, we want you to, like, we think you bring something cool to this character. And there's a part of me that's like, oh man, this is super flattering, like this is cool. But then I started doing the math. It's like, there's a part of me that's like the fan, but then there's a part of me that has like 3 kids and a wife and stuff. And then I started, and to be fair, I'd been spoiled. I cut my teeth on Chew. So it was like creator-owned comics where we owned everything. I saw what the back end of that could be. And I went through the Hollywood thing with Chew. So like I had this sense of ownership that I should own this thing and I should drive this thing. And then with Farmhand, I kicked it up even further because I decided post Chew that I wanted to run the Hollywood situation. With Chew, we had optioned it several times, but we were pretty hands off. But with Farmhand, I decided, you know what? If Hollywood comes knocking, they're getting me with it. If they want Farmhand, I come with Farmhand. And I think that ownership and being in all of the calls and being in all the notes and like running it and writing a pilot for Hollywood, for AMC and stuff, like all of that taught me so much about my worth, I think, and pushing for, no, I'm not going to take a shit deal. Like, I'm not, like, as much as working for Marvel and DC sounds great on paper, I knew it. It's like, oh, how am I going to be if they take what I make and they go make this $1 billion movie and I get nothing from it? How am I going to feel? I'm going to feel like an ass. Like I'm not bashing anyone that does that. I just know for me, it would probably keep me up nights. So I just decided I can't do that. So I'm just going to focus on my stuff. I'm going to try to leverage what I make as much as I possibly can. So if I'm making a comic, I'm going to do my best to hit all the avenues, foreign licensing. I'm going to try to do whatever versions I want to do of it, Kickstarter or, Patreon or whatever. Or if I'm going to bring it to Hollywood, I'm going to be attached to it. Like, I'm going to, like, if anyone's going to profit from the thing I make, I'm going to be the guy because I made it and it's only right. So that's been the biggest lesson. I think just in terms of advocating for myself and not kind of settling for, because the temptation is to just settle.
Yeah. And so I don't want to frame it that way. I was going to say, speaking of settling, right? But so John, you're talking about like doing sort of work for hire as opposed to creator owned. And it almost sounded like, okay, when I'm doing this, I get to relax, right? Like it's someone else's job to market it. It's someone else's job to, deal with printers and solicits and so on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's a huge degree of stress. The payoff is the ceiling's only so high, unless you're, Scott Snyder or Tom Taylor or Bendis, writing like Superstar. If you're just, kind of the regular, big 2 working man, maybe you'll get, some royalty checks, but they're not going to be that high. They're not going to change your life. They're not going to buy you a new house or a new car. And after that's over, that's it. You're on a treadmill. And but I kind of needed it. Like I went through I don't know, I had a few rough years around like coming out of COVID was really tough for me. Just a lot of shit happened in my personal life, and I got a Spawn gig, The Scorched, which paid real well, monthly gig for 25-ish issues, and I got Titans, paid, decently, and it's a regular gig. So I just kind of like coasted, met my deadlines and did that. But what I didn't realize was this freaking Ghost Brawler thing was germinating the entire time. And I get fired from Scorched there, and not fired's the wrong word, but like, hey, bold new direction, new creative team. If you haven't checked out Scorched, they got to rearrange deck chairs. I lose Scorched and I lose Titans in rapid succession. And on the one hand, it's like, oh shit, I lost all my paying gigs. But like, it was also liberating, and this stuff that I didn't have time for, that I know was percolating, just gushed out of me. And I also, like, there are a lot of things going on. We're doing these one-page Chew things for Comics a Magazine. Rob and I are once again on the Hollywood merry-go-round, and it's our 10-year anniversary. And like, I got 15 years on Rob. He's still looking at a nice long life, and I'm looking at my walker and my retirement home. And it's like, shit, man, like, I can't put this off another 10 years. Like, if we're gonna do it, we should do it. And this idea just came out, and it's like, this is perfect for Rob. And it's also like, Chew's over, but if you like Chew and you like the Chew guys, you're gonna like this new thing. Like, it's I'm not shying away from the audience. Like, hey man, you put a lot of money in our pocket, you were loyal, you love Chew, we're gonna give you something else.
Yeah. And it ended up being, I mean, again, perfect timing. I mean, I just finished Farmhand last year, and I had been talking to John about I didn't know if John and I would ever work together again, because we just didn't. It just never aligned. It's all about the alignment. And I had been doing my thing, he was doing his thing. But after finishing Farmhand, we never stopped texting and talking for the last 8-10 years since Chew ended. But I was going back and forth with him about, thank God, like, Farmhand's over. That's a giant weight off my back. Because it was just such a heavy story. But I was looking for the next thing, and I wanted the next thing to be fun, because Farmhand had its fun moments, but more than anything else, it was just this really heavy thing I needed to like express. But now that was over, I wanted to move back into really in the Chew territory, which I didn't think we would do more Chew, really. With the Comics the Magazine thing. Joe Keating, the editor-in-chief, is a friend of mine. And so whenever he told me they were doing it, I immediately just hassled him and harassed him until he gave me a page and said, just look, just whenever you do this, if you guys need a page, I will give you a page every single month. And he said, cool. And so I told Layman about it. I pitched Chew, didn't think he would go for it. And he said, yeah, sure, let's do it. I'm like, oh, cool. So that kind of came together. And then Ghost Brawler kind of fell out of the sky again, which was a pleasant surprise. I did not expect it. Working with John on the new thing in 2026 was like not on my bingo card. But I'm glad it landed. So it's been cool.
But, you can thank DC and Todd McFarlane Productions for that, because I didn't realize it was there until my 2 monthly things that were just keeping me kind of fat and complacent ended. Like, it was a nice recharge period. I'm still writing comics. I'm like, get to write Sam and Twitch. I'm getting to, I get to write, Superman, Wonder Woman. Like, I'm getting to like knock off all these characters off my bucket list. And now, I don't need to go back. Like, once I've written a character, that's cool. Like, I'm writing Rocketeer right now, and King Kong is in it, and we got Popeye and Tintin. And it's like, all right, these are all just like little notches on my bedpost of like characters I've written, and I can, move on, do my own thing.
I've never heard the expression notches on my bedpost. That's amazing.
Oh, well, I think that's usually about sex, but I it's comic book characters for me.
I feel you. So, you're kind of getting that jolt, right, back to a sort of hungry state. Like, okay, wait, what am I going to do next, right? But you've had this idea germinating. What made Ghost Brawler the one that needed to move forward now? And why was it like, when did the epiphany come? Like, wait, I'll get back with Rob for this.
As all of my ideas begin as something else, and probably like 3 or 4 ideas, and they eventually like coalesce. But part of it was like, I was just ready to be funny and fun again. I I had done some dark stuff, like the Scorched for Spawn isn't exactly like, comedy, like they're action, but they're not exactly fun. And like, I guess I just wanted to have fun again. And I've always maintained that you write the comics you want to read, don't write anything that you wouldn't pay money for. And then this is just 10 years after Chew, man, I was feeling it again.
Mm. Yeah, likewise. Like, man, like I was saying, it's just a perfect comic for right now for me. It feels like the more I've gotten into it, the more it feels like kind of a weird release. In terms of growth artistically, I tend to grow in bursts. I'll kind of coast for a bit, and all of a sudden there'll be this leap, this artistic leap. And I think with Farmhand, it went longer than I wanted. Part of that was COVID. Part of that was personal stuff that came out of COVID. Just like John said, I feel like I definitely went through. I felt like we all went through just kind of a dark period post COVID. But I think, Farmhand got so heavy, and I felt like I was always on the cusp of like some big artistic growth, like leap, but I couldn't take that leap because Farmhand wasn't the right book for it. So I kind of felt, I was like holding myself back a bit, finishing Farmhand, being, turning in some my best work, but there was a leap that was just there. And it feels like with these first pages I've been working on with Ghost Brawler, it's been physically feeling like a release. Like the more I do it, the more it's just coming out of me, and it feels nice.
Which is exactly how the scripts were. I mean, I sat down and I wrote the entire first arc in 2.5 months, which is atypical for me. Like I did nothing else. I wrote basically 2 issues a month. That's crazy if you know how, it's one thing when you have a deadline and editors, but like I did this on my own. I had, nobody pushing me. So that shows you how badly I wanted it to happen.
Yeah.
So with that, right, I guess today an article just came out, like kind of announcing this book, right? And so, and you posted on Blue Sky, right? Boxer is killed in the ring, resuscitated. Now he's able to see ghosts, able to touch ghosts. He starts a business going to haunted houses and beating the crap out of ghosts. Ghost Brawler from the guys that did Chew. First of all,
tells you everything you need, right?
Right.
It kind of makes you laugh, right? I mean, it's like I wanted something with a simple enough high concept. Dude goes to haunted houses, beats up ghosts. And it's simple. Like you get a laugh when you tell people the high concept, and you're like, okay, this is going to work.
I think the thing that's fun to me about that, like I'm thinking of like, who do I know? Who would I be angry enough at that I would pay someone to beat them in the afterlife?
Well, I mean, but also you live in a house, you live in the Amityville Horror, and they're telling you get out. You hire this guy, no, you get out.
That's amazing. So, Rob, when you heard this pitch, what was your first thought?
Well, I mean, John's pitches never do it justice. I mean, like with Chew, I've joked about this on other interviews before. When I first got his pitch for Chew, it was just a quick email pitch. He's like, "Oh, it's a police procedural with aspects of sci-fi and horror." He's like, "Well, that could be anything. I don't even know what that means." And then I got the pitch, and the pitch. So the pitch is great, but then you get to the script, and there's a leap that takes place between the script, the pitch, and the script. So with Ghost Brawler, it's the same thing. I got the pitch, and I thought, okay, this sounds cool. Still don't know what it is yet. We'll see what the script says. And the script came, and I read it. And when you see the execution, it wasn't what I pictured at all, because I was still thinking of John as like, Chew John. Chew was this kind of sarcastic, bombastic story where every character is kind of a jerk except for like a couple. But it's just, this thing. But with Ghost Brawler, it had this sweetness and simplicity to it I wasn't expecting. Like the main character is a genuinely good human being who you like empathize with and you're rooting for the entire time.
It's also very jaunty, like like it's kind of straightforward and simple and rollicking. Where Chew had all this baggage of like, here's a backstory. We're gonna have to take all this guy's got a weird power and he lives in a weird world, and here's all the politics. And this is just a dude who punches ghosts.
Yeah, I mean, there's a simplicity to it and a sweetness that I just was not expecting. So when I read it, I thought, man, I guess, I mean, we're 10 years older. So we're coming out of COVID. So like I think we've maybe we got changed in the process, but it's just a sweet book that's really hard hitting. It has some scary moments and some really brutal moments, but man, it's got a good heart to it.
Yeah, but it's also it's boxing, and like what else is in a boxing movie but heart? The boxer always has to have heart for you to feel like that's like the huge component of any boxing drama. It wouldn't be boxing if it wasn't there.
Yeah.
Is there an Adrian joke anywhere in the first arc?
Not in the first one, no. But yeah, somebody gave me something and I'm gonna steal it. Like we've got a Chew crossover, down the road. When we did put eyes on it again, we got a Chew crossover plan, and somebody gave me the story arc title today, Knuckle Sandwich, and it's like, oh yeah, we're using that.
That is great. That is great. So,
but the other part, I've described it as like Raging Bull or Rocky Balboa as a ghost busting good fella. It's definitely got it's not horror, it's supernatural comedy. Like Gremlins or Ghostbusters. We're not trying to keep you up at night, shivering and scared. And then the other part of it is Scorsese movies and like Sopranos, and it's a scrappy guy from the neighborhood where he's Peter Parker. He's always behind on the eight ball. He owes the mob money, and the mob wants to get paid. They like him. Joey, you were a good boxer in the day, but this ain't the day, and you need to pay us our money, or you're going to get in trouble. Which drives a lot of the story. This guy just trying to keep his head above water.
Huh. So with that, right? Like you're mixing so many sort of references. Is there a sort of formula that you try to concoct, or is it just like, here are the things that I love, let's mix them up? Or does it kind of just present
it's
itself
mostly
later?
that I'm not introspective enough to like break it. Like you talk to Scott Snyder, who's a teacher, and he can actually kind of like break things down very academically. It's all kind of organic for me, and I don't really I couldn't tell you my process. It's just I think I would get bored writing one straight genre. So it's easier for me. It's easier for me to mix three genres than to do one genre straight.
Now, do you like? I feel like genre almost like it gives you parameters to tell the story through, right? So like when you have an idea, it's like, okay, this would work better as a comedy, or what I'm trying to say works better as like a drama or whatever. Or is it just like, let's just see what this becomes?
Well, I mean, I knew the tone. I knew, it's and you can't be completely like silly. You gotta have some you gotta have some moments of like pathos and like bad things have to happen to your character, or there's no drama. No drama there, no suspense. So I put that in, but I also remembered like, hey, this is fun. This is, kind of dumb fun, and we want you to have a good time. So remember that. So I don't know, man, the mixing of genres has always been easy for me.
Nice. Now, Rob, you said that like Farmhand couldn't be the thing that you leveled up on as an artist. Do you feel like this was the project, and what did it unlock for you?
Well, there's a level of, I mean, Chew was, in terms of like proportions and cartooning and things like that, like Chew was, because it was that bombastic book, it allowed me to break so many rules, and it didn't feel wrong. Even when you got into like the high drama and stuff, it still felt right. But with Farmhand never really had that kind of bombastic thing. It was this family drama, horror, supernatural thing, and there were some funny beats in it, but like it would never have felt right for me to kind of bend the proportions that way. So it just wasn't the right book for it. So with GHOSTBRAWLER, that's a completely different thing. I mean, it is stylistically, I think it is different from Chew in a pretty significantly. But at the same time, I think it is kind of like the natural evolution of the Chew style, quote unquote. So like, I think the big jump is in my cartooning. I think I am a cartoonist at heart more than anything else. So like I think I've just gotten better at it, like significantly like better at it. I think my line is more certain and confident. So I think there was just that was waiting. I think that had been waiting for years. So like I said, drawing these pages has felt unbelievably satisfying. So yeah, that was the big leap, I think.
Nice. Now, John, you guys are the Chew guys. I feel like, just having that on the masthead, like, would sell some books.
We're hoping.
Why go on the Kickstarter route this time?
Okay, this Rob is fascinated by the possibilities of crowdfunding, and he's more of a businessman than I am. Like I said, I got 15 years on Rob. Like, I'm just looking at the horizon, being like, I'll be dead soon. Bye. So Rob's like still thinking like a businessman, and like, what are the possibilities here? So practically, we're testing the waters of crowdfunding, but more practically, we're raising like the money you go to, this you're not paying for my trip to Bali, you are paying for coloring and, keeping a roof over Rob's head, and, food on his plate and his kid's plate. Like, you are funding the book to come, and you're, helping us in these, like, even with Chew, man, comics are uncertain. So we're kind of hedging our bets and trying to give ourselves the best launch possible. And like, if you're a longtime Chew fan, you want to support us, this is the way to do it. You're also going to get a one of a kind collectible, because we're not going to like turn around and do this version. So we're doing a Bruiser version. It's it's the black and blue Bruiser edition. And it's like the Marvel, like, black and red and, white books. I guess DC has done them too. So, when the floppy comes down the pike, it'll be a full color regular comic, but this is going to be a special edition that's very different from, what's to come. And, you are, if you like Chew, and, hopefully believe in us, we're going to use this to give you, the best comic we can for as long as we can. And we're just hedging our bets here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've always been I'm the Kickstarter guy. I'm the guy who, if I go to a con, I'm going to find my favorite artist and see what special sketchbook they have, a limited edition sketchbook they have for the con, and I'm going to buy that thing at a premium. So Kickstarter is that for me. I don't do as many shows as I used to do. So now, like, I think Kickstarter is that version of that. If Jim of Food or the Ink Pulp guys or who else? Jason Latour just recently did a big Kickstarter, or Matteo Scalera, any of those guys. If they are going to drop something special on Kickstarter, I'm going to be there day one to get it. I like supporting actual creators, and I like books that don't feel mass produced, that feels like they literally came from a person that have sketches and signatures and all that kind of stuff. So like, I think for me, really the choice was, I guess I could work for free for 6 months and make this thing. Or we could actually try to kill two birds with one stone and make something super, super special, put this in people's hands, go to the fan base, which our fan base has always been crazy supportive, not just of what we make, but also of us as creators, and say, if you want this, this is what we're making. This is the offer. If you like it, come on board. You'll be supporting an amazing book. I think, I think for the 8 years that we did Chew, we proved that we are pretty invested in giving people their money's worth. So this is not a cash grab. This is making something cool that will go toward funding the actual book. And if anything, I mean, I think the more people jump on board, the more they're kind of going to unlock and make this a better book. But yeah, like John said, it's going to be, we're still working out exactly the logistics of what we're offering, but at the very least, I know it's going to be, it looks like it'll be somewhere between a 40 and 80 page book. So it'll be black, white, and blue embellishment throughout the entire thing, the whole first issue, the entire first script, but also we're going to be giving snippets of the entire run. So it's
we got a
basically
short
like
story in there.
Yeah, right. So like it's basically I would say it's the trailer for the entire arc at this point. But probably a soft cover version, hardcover version, remarks, tip-in sheets, all that good stuff. Plus we got like some really, really cool limited edition stuff that no one is going to find anywhere else. So I think it's, I'm a geek for this stuff, and I know a lot of the fans are too. So I think it's going to be really special.
The other thing, BJ, is there's a different market for Kickstarter than there is for for the direct market and comic book stores, and it's like we're leaving out an element of fan base. Let's reach out to them and see how it goes. Like if this goes well, I wouldn't mind doing like bruiser editions or special editions down the road while we still do the image stuff for the for the direct market.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we learned. I mean, again, on Shoe is like we already do this. Comic publishers already do this, where you have all of these different markets and you try to hit all the markets. You have the floppy market, but then you have the trades, and then you have the hardcovers and the absolute editions, and you have digital, and you have these foreign languages, and then you come back and you hit all of the markets. And I think Kickstarter is another market. It is a completely separate market from the direct market. And it can be tricky because I've talked to comic shop owners who I guess they get really kind of snippy about it, which I understand. But I think the key in this is just creating something that's completely unique. It is completely a separate experience from the actual book. And at the same time, like we're going to give retailers, an opportunity to jump on this. We'll have retailer bundles and things like that, special for those guys, because we do value the retailer. Like we have really great relationships with retailers all over the world. I've already talked to a lot of them about this stuff, and they're completely on board. So like, yeah, I think it's going to be, I don't know what to expect. It could completely flop. But I have a good feeling about it. I think it's going to be cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. The Kickstarter market or the crowdfunded market is wholly and separate from the direct market. I'm the weird person that kind of has to keep a foot in both. And my wallet is never happy for it, but there are such cool things that you can only get through some of these campaigns. Like behind me right now, well, you guys can't see it because we're all on screen, but I've got that dynamite treasure chest that they did for the gargoyles, and it's like they've got these gold gilded pages, and it's like this crazy experience that you're not gonna get, like, because who's shipping a bunch of wooden crates to a comic shop to sit on a shelf? Like that's so impractical.
Yeah.
So I got that.
And there's a psychological aspect, I think, to helping a creator or property you believe in. Because I'll walk into a comic book store and be like, $50 for this? Oh no, I don't think so. But if it's a package that the creator is offering, I don't think twice.
Yeah. Yeah. None of us do. Which is why my wallet is not happy. But again, there's stuff that I have that I would never have had if it wasn't like I've got a original Dennis Cowan page in front of me that like, I was like, you know what? I'm about to move. It's going to be my birthday. This is going to be a gift to me because I'm never going to see that in a comic shop. But yeah, you're right. There's like a sort of bespoke nature to a lot of this stuff. And I think as long as, like you said, as long as you keep it special, like I think we only feel burned as the audience when it's like, here's this thing that I just like my blood, sweat, tears, and paycheck into, and now 3 months later, anybody can just walk in the comic shop and probably get it for cheaper. Yeah. So
and also just keeping people waiting entirely too long for that kind of stuff. Like I backed something a couple years ago that I just got in about a month ago, and it hurt, and I completely forgot I had even backed it, and then showed up. And it was very underwhelming. I was like, "This is 2 years? Like, what is this?" So like, I'm a deadline guy. I've always been a deadline guy. So like, the goal is to get this thing out really quickly. Actually,
this is Rob talking. There's no way this doesn't come out and in a timely manner.
Yeah. No, I'm on it already. It's only this is very, very manageable for me. So the goal is, we're trying to get the book out. The direct market edition, the full color edition out late, probably in the winter. So the goal is to have this out, I'd say, early fall, probably, to get it out completely, which should not be difficult.
Nice. So just to kind of spoil the magic of internet media, right? As we're having this conversation, the Kickstarter is not live yet, but by the time you
No.
see this, the Kickstarter will be live. So you can go to comicsaredope.com/GhostBrawler, and that'll take you directly to the campaign page. You can see what perks are up for sale. You can see what kind of add-ons and stretch goals there are. That's my favorite part of every Kickstarter is the stretch goals. And like,
oh yeah, watching like, oh shit, I'm getting something for free. You know, I've already bid and other people are bidding and now I get like more for my money.
yeah, like, and you know, sometimes it's like, okay, it's a bookmark, but then other times it's like the product gets better. It's like, all right, at this amount, we'll do spot gloss on the page. It's like, oh, that's fun. Like,
Yeah.
I love seeing the evolution of a book just based on the fan support. So I'm excited to see how this goes, and where we go with these stretch goals. But I'm very excited for the book that is Ghost Brawler. Like, from the log line to the previews, the cover that you just sent me, like, there's a lot here that just looks really fun. I'm excited to see you two back at it.
Well, thanks for having us. I mean, this has been great.
Oh,
Yeah, man, definitely.
No problem at all. You guys are welcome back anytime. Thank you for your time. And well, like I said, you guys, go to comicsaredope.com/GhostBrawler to find the campaign page and make your pledge so you can get this book in your hands again late fall, before the direct market release. And with that, stay safe, stay awesome, and read something dope today. Peace.
Take care, everyone.